What's up, everybody? So this is going to be another what you think type of ramble where I look at one particular faction on the codex size of things, not like a SEP world or a craft world or anything, but something that would encompass an entire codex, giving you my thoughts on them, of course, asking you your own. And I figured I'd do another one because it was kind of fun to do the first one. And this is going to be Tyranids. So, Tyranids, I've always kind of viewed them as a biological computer wielding evolution as a weapon. And they are a hive mind from beyond the galaxy, so they truly are alien in the 40k setting, and they have a lot of potential with that. So, with that said, I do like them, even though I don't see myself really ever collecting them. One of the big things I like about them is the variety of color schemes I've seen painted up for the Tyranids. It's an army that really lends itself well to interpreting it yourself, having an imagination, getting inspiration from real life, whatever the case may be, and dreaming up a really cool scheme, or taking a pre-established scheme like High Fleet Leviathan and Kraken and so on, and really, doing a good job with it, maybe adding some flair to it and making it your own. There's a lot you can do with the Tyranids and color scheme because of how alien they are in look and in feel and in scheme, even from the official schemes. You don't really have to worry about what colors necessarily go with each other or what works where. You can have the carapace be a bright color, you can have the flesh be a bright color. You can have two different bright colors, even if you wanted to. Two different darker colors. You can have it be gray and black, brown and tan, black and tan, white and green. It doesn't matter. You can even go metallics on their hard carapace shell style stuff. What I mean by that is you can go like a metallic blue into a metallic green, kind of replicating some beetle varieties out there, and it would look appropriate and fit in. So there's really a lot you can do with Tyranids, and I really like that. It's probably the ultimate in do whatever you want color scheme wise for an army. On top of that, there's no needing to worry about a counts as necessarily. If you're building your own Space Marine chapter, for example, and you want to utilize Vulcan Heston, you're making a counts as, right? You're running the rules of it, but basically you are, building your own dude, equipped like Vulcan Heston and counting as Vulcan Heston. You're basically building a Salamander's army that just has a different color, a palette swap, and a customized model. That's all well and good, but you don't really have to worry about that with the Tyranids. You could just straight up have the Swarmlord model painted up in your color scheme. The reason for this is the gene memory, if you will, the genes and biomass is there to make a Swarmlord. It's in the hive mind's kind of arsenal and repertoire, if you will. So, whether it's Leviathan or your own Hive Fleet, you can have a Swarmlord in there. It can be the Swarmlord. It's not an individual character per se like it is in other forces. And that's the big thing with the Tyranids is that they don't really have individuality, personality. It's a hive mind, meaning it's one mind across many tools of destruction, if you will. In fact, once a battle is won, you could say once the planet has been consumed and they went nom 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 on it, all the Tyranid forces get reabsorbed into biomass, basically. So that really lends to a great flexibility in how you want to collect and what you want to collect Tyranid-wise, which is pretty cool. In a lot of ways, I view them as kind of a mirror to the Necrons. So the Necrons don't have that malleability, if you will. Necron Warrior is a Necron Warrior. The Immortal is always going to be an Immortal. But they do have the coming back. They do everything via tech. Their tech's so advanced it borders on magic. And the Tyranids, of course, have their own kind of hive mind psychic network, if you will, as well as the evolutionary weapon wielding capability that they have. Biological computer, like I mentioned. The two of those forces, Necrons and Tyranids, just feel like real mirrors to me, personally. That's how I kind of view them. Now, while I find the Tyranids cool, I like the Zerg even better as StarCraft, and I bring that up because of how the Zerg handle weaponry in StarCraft. It's all a part of the organism. The Tyranids don't do that across the board. Trigons, Raveners, Molochs, Hormagaunts, certain Carnifexes, the Pyrovore, the Exocrine. They may have a cannon coming out of their back, kind of Blastoise style, but they all have natural looking kind of physiques, if you will, when it comes to the weapons they're in. They look like the weapon. Then you have bone swords and symbiotic weapons that are very much wielded like it's a separate entity, because they basically are, and they look relatively mundane. Well, they look unique, but they feel very mundane, meaning wielding a bone sword like you'd wield a normal sword, wielding some symbiotic rifle equivalent like you would a battle rifle. And it's just odd. Now, you can say it makes sense because they come from beyond the galaxy. That's maybe the way things were. They don't have to conform to our galaxy's, if you will, rule set for how organisms evolve and do things. But even still, for me, stylistically, there's a lot of the Tyranid force that just feel too mundane in how they have their weapons of destruction. Termagants wielding them like submachine guns, to Hive Tyrants and Carnifexes having big guns kind of partially morph from their hand and having a symbiotic relationship. It works, you could say. I can definitely see the appeal. There's definitely a creep factor to it. But while there is that creepy factor, for me, I prefer the Ravener approach, the Exocrine, the Trigon approach. The approach where you can't look at it like a weapon being wielded, if that makes any sense. So, that was a weird noise outside, and I think there's a storm approaching. Anyways, so yeah, where was I? Anyway, I like that approach better, which is why I like the Zerg better. The Raveners, I really like. They feel very Hydralisk to me. But I'm not going to say half the force of Tyranids have the whole symbiotic weapon mundane type of approach to it, and the other half do not. But you can definitely see what I'm talking about if you look through their range. And for me, it just doesn't cut it. Now, I can see the appeal, and I get it. I do. If you're into big monster type stuff or anything along the lines of biological technology, it's not biological technology. It's kind of a weird way to say it, but if you're into super biological weapons, evolution being their plaything, Tyranids really do have that approach. And I call them biological computers because it's very much handled in a binary way. As they consume, you could have the hive mind readily at work if you visualize it. What genetics will they view advantageous? If it's advantageous, add it to the gene stockpile. If it's not advantageous, add it to the biomass, raw biomass pile for energy to power, you could say, their hive fleet to create Tyranid biomorphs and so on. So I really like the approach that they have. It's very clinical in a way. It's at odds with the very feral, primal nature that Tyranids exude when you look at their being. It's a good thing that they weren't really smothered with cease and desist for how close a lot of their heads and a lot of kind of silhouettes are to the Alien franchise, Alien. And luckily enough, I don't know if they had lawsuits in the past or if it got quelled or whatever the case is. Part of me thinks they had the Tyranids established long enough they could do it without worry, because if you look at some of the really old Tyranid models, they really are different from how they are today. How they are today is a lot more flirting with disaster, you could say, in terms of the likeness being similar to other stuff. If Harmony Gold owned the Alien franchise, you can bet there'd be a huge cease and desist work order looming. But since we don't have that, Tyranids are free to run around and run rampant in the galaxy. So, cool. Anyways, there's nothing wrong with the Tyranid Force. Plenty of people like them. I've seen a lot of cool conversions, a lot of cool custom color schemes and the like. And I really like the concept behind them. They are a mirror to one of the forces I really like. I, for me, when I think a Tyranid biomorph wielding some type of, or not wielding, having some type of capability, I don't think of it as being wielded. I think of it being the Tyranid organism. So when I see like Hive Guard or other forces such as Termagants and the like holding something that is very reminiscent of a gun, only biologically kind of constructed, you could say, it kind of robs some of the wind from the sails of the Tyranids. Cool factor for me personally, but I still like them, and I would like to see them used more as a plot point. Video gaming kind of does it. Tabletop role playing games, you can do it. Certain novelizations kind of tackle it here and there, but it's been the kick lately has been Chaos's did it. It's Chaos's fault, left, right, up, and down, and there's so much in 40k that has a lot of plot potential to get some limelight to be the driving force as the big, villain, if you will, quote unquote, or as the antagonist in a particular campaign or whatever. And Tyranids certainly rank up there. I think it's the real lack of personality, individuality, that is the driving force behind why we don't see them used as much as orcs and chaos and the like. But they definitely have a lot of potential. I would love to see them be a driving force for a future global campaign or something along those lines, because they definitely can do it. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the Tyranids. What do you think about the Tyranids? Do you agree, disagree? Do you think something completely different I haven't even touched upon? Feel free to share it in the comment section. It's always cool to see how everybody kind of views a particular faction. And the Tyranids are pretty well established in the 40k lore. They're pretty cool. Again, they hold the, I feel, unique distinction of being completely alien to the Milky Way galaxy, which is the setting of 40k. You could have some type of philosophical debate about the warp, but given how they interact with the warp, how they are a shadow in the warp type of deal, you could say this proves that the Tyranids have encountered the warp elsewhere and developed a counter to it, or you could equally say that they are so alien that the warp, being a Milky Way galaxy thing, is affected by their presence. It could go either way. I'm not one to debate how far the warp stretches, but I think as a clear and present faction that is uniquely alien to this galaxy, the Tyranids are the sole ones. Put it to you that way. Anyways, a pretty cool force. Again, loads of color scheme potential. You could just do an internet search, or you can go to your local game store, and you'll see some forces that are done in the official schemes and they look great. Plenty of people will do that online as well. But then you're going to see a lot of really out there schemes based on their own imagination or using bugs as references, for example, or so forth. So, anyways, that's it. Don't forget to share your thoughts, and until the next one, take it easy.